Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. What's going on? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and there's a lot to talk about. And I am here with my very good friend, Miss Zaza Ali. How you doing today, Zaza?
I'm doing excellent. How are you, sir?
I'm doing really well, really well. Now, I want to make sure I mention to people that the title of your first book was called Black Matters, and your second book, there we go. There it is. And wait, hold on. Oh, okay. So we got
Don't
the
go get the
gold.
book. Don't go get the book because you have not read it. So stop playing.
I got my copy too. And look, notice the bookmarks in the middle, but that's not because that's where I've read to. I've actually read the whole thing, and I was going back and referencing other stuff in the book. So everybody should go check out this book, Black Matters. Where can people buy it actually?
On my website, zazaali.com, zazaali.com. You can get it right there.
Okay, so zazaali.com, and the book is Black Matters, and the second book is just like Black Matters 2.
Volume 1 and Volume 2.
Ah, very nice, very nice. You know, it's funny. You know, with my book, Black American Money, I just put out part 2 of that book as well. So it's kind of, but the thing was, part 1 was I wrote part 1 in 2006, and I kind of felt like I needed to do a sequel to it. And so, yeah, so people should just buy all of her books, but start with her books. Buy her book first, and then after you read her books, you can come back and buy and read mine. And I think everybody should check out your stuff. Now, okay. So we were talking earlier, you actually watching in our YouTube live stream a minute ago where I was talking about Rachel Dolezal. Right? Rachel Dolezal is the white lady who, you know, feels really black. And she's in the media now lately. And a lot of people have kind of taken issue with the fact that she's identified with the black community so deeply. I have said very clearly that, you know, her behavior doesn't bother me that much. What is your take? I mean, you're a black woman. Tell me how you felt when you saw her behavior.
I mean, I see a woman who's mentally disturbed.
Mm.
You know, she's clearly mentally disturbed. And I think a lot of times we tend to get kind of, you know, worked up, and sometimes rightfully so. And then other times it's kind of like, you know, you at the family reunion and you see your crazy uncle, you know what I mean? Sitting at the kids' table, you know, eating food with the 5-year-olds, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, he's a little bit off. Why are you, you know, you're not going to really focus on him that much. She's clearly mentally disturbed. And, you know, I think that a lot of white people have a guilty complex from especially I heard you say on your previous video that she was, you know, an intellectual, if you will, from an academic background. So she's probably got a larger grasp of white history and what white people have done to African people all over the planet. And she probably has, you know, some sort of guilty complex that she's trying to compensate for. So I would say it's that. I think Black women are the most beautiful and flyest, you know, women on the planet. So who wouldn't want to be a Black woman? I definitely think that ties into it as well. And then just, you know, mental illness. Everyone can look at you and see that you're a white woman. You know, your family's doing videos saying that you're a white woman, and still you're in denial and trying to not be who you really are. I think that's very telling.
Interesting. You know, I think that, yeah, you know, I agree with you. I mean, when I saw her behavior, I kind of felt sorry for her a little bit. You know, I kind of felt like I said, whatever she's gone through has led her to disassociate from who she, you know, would have been to who she's choosing to be now.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that whatever white people were in her life were probably not very nice to her. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can tell me if I'm wrong, it seemed like she had a Black man that she really looked to as a mentor, as a father figure. And that also led to her kind of identifying with Blackness. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
Yeah, I think that because I remember when the whole thing was kind of blown up about her pretending to be Black, where the reporter kind of outed her for being white. She was stating, if I'm not mistaken, there was a Black man that she was saying that that's my father. And they were like, no, that is it. And the guy said, is that really your father? Mm-hmm. And she said, and she kind of paused and hesitated. And she said, so I guess the guy pulled out evidence that some other guy was her father. And basically was like, well, but you're white, you know, because this is your father, not him. And so it almost makes me wonder you know, if you're a white kid and you have someone that loves you and they happen to be black, you know, it almost seems like you could almost feel like you were black because they're black. Or, you know, in fact, I know one of my friends is high yellow, and she says that, and you know, you go through that colorism, the reverse colorism, where people think because you look a certain way you're not black enough. And her kids, she had children with a dark skinned man, so her kids, you know, are pretty dark skinned, and her kids pretty much were telling their friends, my mother's white, you know, so that means I'm white too because my mom was white. And she would say, no, 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 sweetie, I'm not white. I'm black. I just, you know, look differently. And her daughter was like, no, but you're white because your skin is just like my friend who's white. You know, so I think that I can't help but wonder if that association with that black father figure is part of what drove her issue as well. So let me ask you this. Do you think that there's a difference between a Rachel Dolezal versus, you know, the Kardashians or Iggy Azalea or other people who kind of connect to blackness as a way to benefit financially or whatever the case may be?
Well, a difference, yes. You know, I think definitely people like Iggy Azalea and Eminem, people who identify with Black culture, particularly music. You know, I think they come into it with a different type of respect. I think Rachel Dolezal, from what I know about her, she studied some African history and Black history. So I think that there's, you know, an affinity from all of these different people for Black culture. I remember Tupac said they all want to be like us, the have-nots. He was talking about Black people. And I think that there is such a profound strength in being able to endure the hardships that we've endured throughout our time here and still be the shiniest, you know what I mean, the most well recognized around the world. And whether it's entertainment or in athletes, sports, and even certain academic, from academic and scholarship perspectives. So I think all of these people come into it with an affinity for Black culture. But I also think maybe the difference between her and them is that they know when to turn it off. You know what I mean? You see Iggy Azalea switch gears from her around the way girl kind of swag to that white girl thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, they're attacking me. How could you do this to me? You know what I'm saying? So they know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. I think she somewhere really in her mind has lied to herself so much that she actually thinks that she is the Black woman.
Mm.
I think for all of these different people, you know, the main thing for me is I would respect you a lot more if you embraced who you really are. You know what I mean? You're a white woman, be a white woman. You are a white young, you know, you may be a hip hop head or whatnot, but you know, you still have the privilege of being a white man or a white boy. I think it would be a lot more even respectful from a Black perspective if they really own that, instead of trying to identify with the suffrage that we experience all the time when they clearly don't live that.
Okay, so you think that the dividing line is the fact that people can look at her and say, you've never known the pain of being Black, so stop trying to sort of claim, I guess almost like the sense of, I don't want to call it a sense of pride, but it's almost like there's a badge of honor, it seems, that people feel for the fact that they've endured Blackness and kind of overcome it. And you can't claim that, you can't falsely claim that, almost like pretending to be in a fraternity that you're not in, right?
That is part of it. But then too, like, you know what I mean? Like there's enough fakeness in the world right now. You know what I'm saying? People respect you more when you're being yourself. Everybody's trying to be a carbon copy of somebody else. You know what I mean? If you just represented who you really are naturally by birth, I think it would go a lot further. You're provoking and instigating, whether you're trying to or not, Black women and Black culture and history and heritage when there's no need for that. If you love Black history and Black culture, look at Jane Elliott. Jane Elliott has built a platform, Tim Wise, white people who have built platforms on exposing racism, white supremacy, and talking about Black suffrage, and still able to be true to who they really are. That's respectable. What she's doing, it's buffoonish. It's like blackface in reverse.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. So I can see that. So it almost seems like a lot of us would understand it better if she just said, look, I'm a white person who identifies with what Black people are going through. You know, I'm a white ally, a white advocate.
I'm a white woman who loves Black people. And I'm so disappointed in my ancestors, and I'm so ashamed in what we have done to these people over centuries. I'm going to dedicate my life to helping to absolve some of the pain that we've inflicted on them.
Okay. Okay. You know, I mean, I think you kind of summarized the Rachel Dolezal conversation pretty well with that. I think we're in agreement on that. I think that what I'm curious about at this point is, you know, why do we care? Right? Why are we talking about it? Why are people mad? You know, why I mean, people were really livid over it. Like she really hurt them. Like she really took something away from them. What do you think what's the source of that anger? Just where you would spend that time, I mean, with all the enemies we got, Black people got a lot of enemies in the world. With all the enemies that we have, why would we spend so much time expressing, you know, that kind of disdain for this woman because she has the mental health issue that's leading her to over-identify with Blackness?
Well, you know, social media plays a large role in that. People jump on trending topics now. So it's like whatever is the conversation of the day, you know, you log on to Facebook, you log on to Instagram, whatever people are talking about is the thing that you're actually talking about. It's interesting to me because, you know, you have this situation now with these young sisters that were reportedly missing in Washington, D.C., right? And everybody now is sharing this article about these 64,000 girls or women that are missing. That article's 3 years old. So why is it trending now, and why wasn't it trending 3 years ago? It's like we live in a culture of followers now, where someone, whether it's, you know, a famous blogger or a famous Instagram person or a famous Facebook person, sets the tone of the day, and opposed to people setting their own tone, somebody else is setting the tone. So you have that aspect. And then you also have Black women living in a system where we consistently see white women afforded all of the benefits of this world, right? You go to the bank, you go to, you know, all your different movements throughout society, and you see white women constantly upheld as, you know, the standard of beauty and the standard of class and the standard of grace. And then you have this white woman who's clearly white going out of her way to reject that and be something that she's not. It's very hypocritical. So it is a shock factor to it that is disrespectful and, you know, shocking. But at the same time, like I said, this is your uncle sitting at the table with the 5-year-olds. You know what I mean? This woman's not wrapped too tight. Why do we get upset over things like this? But then when you have, say, you know, a slut walk, and women who are promoting this culture of promiscuity and this culture of over sexualizing young girls and women, how come women don't get upset about that stuff? I remember you put the Facebook post up, and I mentioned this in one of my videos about Black women in hair, saying if Black women spent this much money and spent this much less every year on hair, that, you know, they could use this money and invest in this. And the women went crazy. I was like, that's common sense. Why are you so upset about that? So I think there's this weird thing going on now where ignorance and you know, this reality TV kind of environment and this short-sighted, you know, non-substantive conversation gets all the play. But then when you talk about something of value and meaning, people tune it out.
Interesting. Well, everybody who just chimed in, I want you to know this is Ms. Zaza Ali. She's the author of the book Black Matters, Volume 1 and Volume 2, which you should definitely check out. Me, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm just the guy who's here absorbing information. And so, you know, it's funny, Zaza, you were talking about, you know, just this issue with women. And I'll tell you what, I speak on Black women because I care about them. I do, not in a way that says I know more than they do or that I would tell anybody what to do, but because I care. And I've never really understood how my existence as a Black man could ever be successful without understanding the role that women play in all of that. You know, everybody from my mother, my grandmother, my sister, to, you know, whether you're talking about relationships or friendships, anything like that. You know, I know how essential Black women are to my existence and my success. And so, and I'm not going to stop talking about it, right? And I think I became a little bit concerned about this idea that some people think we live in a world where a man is not qualified to ever give any kind of advice, even constructive support to Black women. And because when I made that comment about the hair, I was thinking about places like the shop I went to yesterday, was it yesterday? I guess it was yesterday. Gary, Indiana. There was this store. It was like one of those stores where they sell hair and baby shoes and Snickers bars and bootleg DVDs and anything you want in there, you could get it. I'm sure they would probably sell the stuff, the weed in the back too. But then the store had all these Black people in it, and they were making money hand over fist. The Black people loved that store. And you know what? That store was owned by an Arab family. And I was in this store, and I mean, I know they were making money hand over fist because I saw every kind of hair weave you can imagine in this store, every kind of hair product you can imagine in the store. These people were deeply in tune with what the Black consumer wants. The store was right there in the middle of the hood. And I just thought, it's so tragic that it's almost like the women are addicted to this store because they need it, for the hair care products and everything else, which it's fine. I'm not judging that. But it's like, when you look at an addiction, who has the power, the addict or the pusher? And so basically they were the pusher, and they said Black women, they need the creamy crack, they need the weaves, they need all these things to feel a certain way. They will spend their last dollar to get this product. We're going to supply it, and we're going to make ourselves rich. And I remember thinking, so what's the barrier? What is the obstacle that's keeping a group of Black women from building a store just like that? What is it? I mean, really, I personally felt that the Black people that were going to that store giving away all their money should be offended that this family is able to profit in that way. I mean, unless these were the coolest Arabs ever, and they were building, playgrounds and parks and making major donations to the hood, which I doubt that they were, there's no reason they should be there exploiting that much wealth from a commodity that Black women depend on that much. And I'll be damned if somebody's going to make me feel any kind of way about bringing that up to Black women. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Well, you said a number of things I want to touch on. I actually talk specifically about this, Black women in hair, from an economic standpoint, as well as a mental and a sociological and a psychological perspective in my book. And yes, I am plugging it, Plagues of Dysfunction, Volume 2. It's on my website. But the concept of Black men not being able to guide Black women, I really get frustrated sometimes. And I know, I've gotten some flack from some videos that I've done with you because sisters get mad when we get called out. It's like, just standing away from an emotional perspective, right? Not you as an individual woman, but as a Black woman living in America amongst 43, 45 million of our people, men, women, and children, right? If we look at our condition, at the percentage of households that are only being headed by women, the percentage of our men that are incarcerated, the percentages of our children that are being miseducated, the percentages of our women now that are being incarcerated, the condition of our daughters in the community, the feminization of boys, the masculinization of women, and all of these different plethora of issues that we have, it's confounding to me how women can stand back and say, that's not my fault. I don't have anything to do with any of that. I just want to live my life, be able to do what I want to do and buy what I want to buy and wear what I want to wear. And I don't want anybody telling me anything. That's that European left-brained individualistic mindset that has taken over, not just our women, but our people in general. We are collectively, naturally, a collective-minded people, meaning we understand our connection to the bigger picture. So if we recognize, just from an economic standpoint, right, they say $500 billion is spent in the Black hair care industry, right? But then they also say that if you factor in 500 million, did I say billion?
I think you said 500. I think you said billion the first time.
Okay, so it's 500 million, but if we factor in all of the other different avenues that come along with money making, from beauty supply stores to the vending to the different industries that are profiting off of Black hair care, the number's a lot more, probably twice to three times that. So why is it that if there are 54, let's say there's 54 Black bookstores remaining in the country, right? Most of them are closing down or have already closed down. Why can't we say, okay, let's make a dedicated effort collectively as Black women to allot $50 million of what we spend every year on hair, coming out, bringing our female economic sisters to the forefront, and even you, and figuring out a way to consolidate that money to funnel it into another aspect of our culture, whether it's the bookstores, whether it's the African-centered schools, whether it's the Black colleges and universities. How do we become so selfish that when the conversation comes up, understanding that we have a plethora of issues in our communities, that we're going to stand back and say, no, I don't want you telling me what to do. And that's the response, right? So you say the Arabs, right? The Arabs are so well-versed and the Koreans are so well-versed. All of these people come into our communities. They've studied advertising. They've studied Black psychology. They know what we want. They know what gets Black women off when they walk into the beauty supply. Which ethnicity and nationality, from Arabs to Koreans to white people to Asians, have come into the Black community and studied the mind and the science of the young brothers and sisters and figured out, okay, we need more libraries here. We need to add a media department to the schools. We need to bring in a security element, military, martial artists to be able to train the young brothers to protect these young brothers and sisters. They're never coming in and studying in any significant way that will improve the community. And they can still be making money off of us, but they can't foster in a way of improving the community because they know that it's our ignorance that allows them to be there. They know it's our ignorance that continues to have Black women go in and support businesses that barely hire Black women. Some of them hire Black women now to have a token Black face, so that they can feel more welcome, and that will greet them and be able to talk to them about the products that they purchase. But they make no effort. I said in my book, I said there's a Black hair care company called Kizu, and it's based out of Los Angeles. I met this sister last year when I was there to speak. She said that they systematically took her hot curling irons. The Koreans came in and basically made copies, replicas of her curling irons that she created, flat irons and curling irons, small, medium, large, all different sizes. They recreated them, reproduced them, and then marginalized and ostracized her from the industry to the point where now she can't even get her curling irons into the broader industry. I said in any other community that would be considered an act of war.
Absolutely.
You shut down a whole industry. This sister had an industry, a manufacturing sector, and it flew right up under our noses.
Wow. Yes, that would be an act of war. I could feel.
Kizure is it? Kizure. Excuse me.
Kizure. If you can, if you're still in touch with them and you want to invite them on to come in,
I have her contact information.
Please reach out to them, and we can do with this platform. We can all talk together.
Yeah.
And we can bring the sister in, because I consider it an act of war, and as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, you do shit like that, you need to pay. Period. Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, that's and I think that's what Black people have to understand, is that economics is warfare. The white man sees economics as warfare. The Asians see it as warfare. Black people, I think we see it as charity or something. I don't know, or pleasure-seeking activity. I don't know how we see our economics, but we need to find some way to understand how global economics actually works, and that what the Koreans did was basically them fighting for their own survival. They said, look, your kids can be out in the streets, but my kids won't be out in the street. Your child won't be able to afford to go to college, but that ain't going to happen to my kids. I will lie, steal, violate your copyright, whatever it takes to provide for my own. And I'll tell you what, there is nothing wrong with what they did. I think what's wrong is the fact that we allow people to do that to us, and we don't understand the importance of responding.
But let me say something, Boyce. There is something wrong with what they do. There's nothing righteous about going into other people's communities and exploiting them. Now, of course, we know everybody has to do what they have to do. We have to make money. We have to, I'm reading the 48 Laws of Power right now, right, by Robert Greene. And I'm studying the mindset of the capitalists. And it's fascinating to me because I understand that if I'm going into the world to deal with sharks, I got to be able to move like a shark, right? But I don't want to be a shark. I want to be able to move like a shark when I'm amongst sharks, but I don't want to be a shark. Right. And that's what's going to separate us. And that's what's always separated us from the different people around the world who take pride in exploiting other people. No, we will not take pride in exploiting other people. There is a way that we can conduct ourselves with business in capitalism in these different sectors. When we got to be a shark, we can be a shark, but we can also move and operate with righteousness, where we're not talking about going into the Korean communities and exploiting them because they exploit us.
Well, now that I agree with. I don't think, in fact, when we talk about, capitalism and free enterprise in the Black Business School, one thing I tell them from the very beginning is that you really don't want to be a hardcore capitalist. Hardcore capitalism really leads to slavery. I think that you can't operate with compassion, especially when you talk about people that are from your community, people that you care about. But I also made no qualms about the idea that we have to understand that Black people must come first. Even the Jews, when the Jews became the first bankers in Europe, back in Italy, hundreds of years ago, their rule was, the interesting thing was they became the first bankers because Christians were not allowed to charge interest based on something in the Bible at the time. And the Jews allowed themselves to charge interest as long as you don't charge interest with your brother, which means don't charge interest to another Jew, but everybody else, fuck them. And now I'm not saying that that's the way you want to approach things, but, we got to be real in terms of the world that we live in. And I can say this, I have a heart for everyone that's out here, every culture, everybody, but I'm going to make sure that my children are protected first.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to make sure my people are protected first. And I think it's okay for us to put Black people first because we are in this habit of putting everyone else ahead of ourselves.
It's mandatory for us to put Black people first. Everyone's self-preservation is the first law of nature. We can teach our children lessons, economic lessons, as you said, in the same manner that you said, and at the same time, while we're teaching the economic lessons, we can also be teaching spiritual lessons. We can also be teaching lessons about how to maneuver in the world and how to gain favor with people that may benefit 2-3 generations down the line. Making those type of connections and those human connections that will have a longer benefit outside of, okay, you gave me the check, I cashed the check, you give me what I'm supposed to give, the reciprocal business element of it. There are larger lessons to be learned in economics besides the amount of money that you put in my bank account and vice versa. So, but absolutely, self-preservation is the first law of nature. And like Marcus Garvey said, race first. I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I think that, I think that what you're talking about is really important. I'm really hoping that, I guess as a man, maybe I'm not the right one to tell women how to proceed, but I'll say this too. I need to make sure we say this as we talk about, the crazy, angry, nasty feminists that were coming on my page. And really, honestly, I think some of them were literally planted. I think some of their profiles were fake and run by these white guys. But, as they came on the page, one thing I can say is that there were some strong sisters that stood up. There were some strong Black women that went in there and just, and held it down. And when I think about, any pain that's been caused, by any Black woman that I've interacted with, even a swarm of Black women, I don't really think much about that. I think about the Black women who've loved and supported me, right? And that's the thing we forget about, is that when you're talking about the other gender, there's always shades of gray. There's always, people on every end of the spectrum. And I think that I would hope that the same thing would be true on the female side, that when you're thinking about your issues that you have with Black men, make sure you separate the good guys from the bad guys. I mean, because sometimes as a guy who really cares about and supports Black women, you run into every day. If I say the words Black woman on my page, I will always get a comment from somebody saying, why are you attacking Black women? Like, for example, the other day, I think I put something on my page that said, studies show, be very careful, because the studies show clearly that children are less likely to be abused sexually and otherwise when their biological father is in the home. And I knew this from reading scientific studies. Also, I've known 2 cops who worked in crimes against children units. So this job is so horrible that when you do that job, they don't let you do that job for more than a couple years. And after that, they give you intense therapy because of the horrible things you've seen done to children. It really messes men's heads up. My father had that job for a little while, and he has a real problem with anybody that hurts a child, and I do too. And what they've told me consistently is that there are thousands of cases of abuse that occur constantly with young Black children that happen at the hands of the mother's boyfriend. And he also said that in many of these cases, most of these cases, the mother has no clue of what's going on. She has no idea. And so while I'm not here to say, look, I'm not trying to say your boyfriend's a bad man. I'm not trying to say you're a bad parent. I'm trying to say be careful, because this is what the data is showing, and we have to, share this information. So long story short, I remember when I said that, I think the comment probably got I got 2,000 comments off this. About 1,400 of them were, fuck you, Black men ain't shit anyway. It's the biological fathers that are doing the molesting. And I would just respond calmly and say, actually, that's not true according to the data. Here's a research study at at University of Pennsylvania that says this isn't the case. Why are you using the white man's research? That ain't shit. So it was the venom was amazing. So I want to
catch the Holy Ghost. I'm catching the Holy Ghost.
Please go.
First of all, oh my God. Okay. I didn't see the thread, but I know this mindset because I see it all the time. You don't even need the white man's research to prove the point. You don't even need the study from this university or that university to prove the point. God set it up where man plus woman equals child. This is a union that comes together and creates life. Everything in the universe is a balance of masculine and feminine. Everything in the universe. So this concept of women now trying to somehow erase men from the equation, whether they're good, bad, ugly, indifferent, is insanity. Now, let me just point this out, because I don't want this to seem like a Black woman bashing conversation. I have a whole chapter in my book called Message to the Black Man in America, where I talk about Black men and the shit that you guys need to focus on and work on. Not all Black men, but some Black men. The issue that we have is that the good guys are not confronting the bad guys. The good women are not confronting the bad women. So now we have the good guys trying to confront the bad women, and the good women trying to confront the bad guys, and we're not moving anywhere because there's no progress, because the like minds, the good women and the good men, are not coming together and forming a union to tackle the issues that we need to tackle. So everybody's standing back pointing fingers. Black men did this, Black men did that. I can't tell you how many times I remember I said I was in a restaurant having dinner, and there was a sister there, and she had 2 children with her, and the young boy was like 4 years old. He was cutting up the whole time, all over the restaurant. He was just wilding out. So I go on my Facebook page and I said, you can tell when a child is, I said something to the extent of, you can tell when a child is not being properly raised with a man in the household. All hell broke loose. Well, it's not our fault if men leave, and it's not nobody's sis, come off the bridge. What's with all of the emotion? Let's stop for a second. Let's assess this situation. Do you think that it's in the best interest of any child? Put the father out of the equation for a second. If he's crazy or drunk and abused, do you think it's in the best interest of any child to grow up and be raised without a man? A healthy, well-rounded, intelligent, well-meaning man in their life. If you do, I don't even want to talk to you. Please exit stage left. I don't have time for that. If we can start there, then we can say, okay, well, he may have these issues and he may have these issues. But you know what I talked about in my book, Brother Boyce? A lot of the issues that a lot of our men have, some of them come from them having bad boyfriends and getting into bad marriages and making bad decisions, but some of it comes from them having issues with their mothers. Not receiving the proper nurturing and caring and compassion that they needed from their mothers. So they go into relationships needing to be mothered by women because they didn't receive proper mothering and compassion and emotional stimulation from their mothers. Wow. From the time that they were born up until the time that they actually grow into grown men. So this is why I'm so diligent in my message for women, not because I'm just being extra hard on women. No, we play a bigger role. You carry that child in your womb for 9 months before that baby sees anybody else's face. You have a head start on everybody else that child is gonna come in contact with in their life.
Wow.
So if you're harboring negative emotions for the father while you're pregnant, or if you have a horrible diet while you're pregnant, or you don't breastfeed, or you have post-stress disorder when the baby actually comes. There's a lot of different things that factor into this. It's science, it's biology. It's not just this nigga ran off and left me and now I'm mad and I'm mad at the world. No, your body is a scientific phenomenon. You get life, not only with the physical offspring, but then from your mind, from your mouth, what you say to a man, how you speak to a man, how you speak to your son. So I'm passionate, and let me calm down, because the levels of ignorance that's plaguing some of our women now, for us not to even be able to come to the table and say our children need good, strong men in their lives, and if they don't have good, strong men in their lives, what can we do as women to help create an environment where we start to produce good, strong, healthy men for the young girls and the women that are coming up behind us? That's your duty. That's your responsibility. So because you chose a man that walked out on you or that did you wrong, you're going to walk away from all that? The African proverb says that we are responsible to 7 generations coming up behind us. In front of us, I mean. So what can a woman that is chewing daily on feminist propaganda, and I'm not calling out all feminists, because I understand the why sometimes women feel like they have to identify with the group that only works and focuses on women, because our women need a lot of help. Our daughters need a lot of help. But if you're constantly chewing on this food that's teaching you to hate men, and that's teaching you that, all of these different ways to rid yourself of children and to be able to not have children, and, so many different elements of a theology or an ideology that's contrary to family. If it's all contrary to family, what good can you do us as a people?
Wow. Well, and actually before I respond to that, I want everybody to know this is Ms. Zaza Ali, and she's the author of the book Black Matters Volume 1 and 2. I hope that you go to zazaali.com and get a copy of her book. I personally tell both of my daughters, look at Zaza. I need y'all to look at a strong Black woman over there, smart Black woman. Learn from that, right? And I think that ties into a lot of what you're saying, in the sense that, I can't imagine when I hear any woman act as if men don't matter. It baffles me, because I can't imagine going through life saying women don't matter, or saying that my daughters don't need their mothers. I can't. That I would sound like a complete idiot by saying something like that. And so, when I hear other people say it, if you sound like an idiot, I'm gonna subtly let you know that what you're saying is a little bit crazy, or maybe that white woman is the one who told you to say these stupid things, because you sound kind of dumb when you act as though that father who made that baby is somehow irrelevant and doesn't need to exist, and then you jump on this bandwagon. You got the whole world that wants to tell you in every single way imaginable, the educational system, the economic system, in politics, and in media. They're constantly telling you, reinforcing the message that Black men ain't shit. And so because you have some issue with some Black man who disappointed you, might have been your father, might have been somebody else, you utilize the weapons prepared by the white man for you to somehow further your agenda. I'm mad at men, so since my enemy's enemy, or what is it? My enemy's enemy is now my friend. So the white man hates us, you hate us, so y'all come together and attack us from every angle. And you see it happen all the time. And I just, that's one of the things that will get you kicked off my Facebook page. When you come in there and you're making blanket attacks on black men or black women for no reason that makes any sense whatsoever, you will get kicked out. And I think that we have to be nasty about this. I don't think that there's room to be polite in the struggle. I really think that we are in a fight for our lives, because the thing about it is that, if you follow some of that doctrine that sort of says men don't matter and that black men can just be exterminated and that there's, that they have no role in the home, then it's kind of like you're walking down this weird dead end path where, you're going to have all these men that are feminized. So there are no husbands for the next generation, no fathers for the next generation, all these men who want to be girls, and all these girls growing up thinking they don't need a man, or maybe the girls want to be guys. I don't know you know what I mean? Everybody's getting all confused. So you're talking about extermination. When you and I were out in California, Farrakhan talked about that. He linked it all to black extermination. And it's ironic that he can make that direct linkage, because when you go back to even the origins of feminism and you look at Hillary Clinton's hero, Margaret Sanger spoke openly about black extermination. My daughter brought this up, and I want to go research this a little bit more. But she talked about how Margaret Sanger, one of the first places that she wanted to target for her abortion clinics was Harlem. And my daughter was like, Harlem was, at the time, Harlem was filled with black people. And to this day,
it was a cultural mecca. It was a cultural, living, breathing mecca of arts and sciences and knowledge. That's why she wanted to target it.
Right. And so it's so interesting. I mean, the writing's on the wall. It's not as if this is rocket science, right? This white woman who ain't got nothing in common with black people was dead set and determined to put her abortion clinics right there in the middle of a black mecca. I mean, if that ain't a plan for extermination, I don't know what is. So, you're nicer about the whole feminism issue than I am. I forgive those who somehow align with feminism because they think that that's the answer to what plagues us. But, you're not going to be able to sort of carry that label for too long without me kind of challenging you on that and kind of saying, I don't think that's really what you want to be. I don't really think. Mothers are supposed to give life, and really, there's something about that ideology that is serving death to the black community, which to me is undermining the very essence of your womanhood. To me, a strong, an amazing, and beautiful woman is one who is a giver of life. She makes things better. She's the one that'll see your crooked tie and fix your crooked tie, or tell you that you need to, paint the walls and make, or cook you some food, or whatever it is. Like there's something about strong women that gives life. And what I see really with the feminist ideology, unfortunately, is a lot of preaching of death, the death of the family, the death of the child, the death of the community. And I can't support that.
So let's balance this out, right? You said a lot of stuff that I want to address. Let's balance this out. There are women who are in very violent and dangerous relationships right now. Somewhere in this country right now, there's a sister getting her face beat to a pulp by a black man. Okay? There are women who are single mothers to 2, 3, and 4 children that are working 2 jobs and catching a bus and not receiving child support and barely holding on by a thread. Lights might be off, gas might be off, no car, no support, no family. There's a woman somewhere in this country right now being raped. Right now. There are black girls I'm putting up another video that I finished earlier on my YouTube page. There are black girls right now in America that are being pimped by black men. In every city in this country, there are women and girls who are being molested and violated by their uncles and by their cousins and by their brothers and by their fathers and their grandfathers every single day in the black community. So we have to understand, if we are going to address the feminist mindset from a Black woman's perspective, it didn't start in a vacuum. There is a lot of things that are happening to Black women every single day at the hands of Black men, and not just Black men, all men, while our men stand by and say and do nothing, right? That is creating a culture of an environment of hatred of Black men, Black women towards Black men. We can't deny that.
No, we can't.
At the same token, it's happening on the other end of the spectrum. But for a woman, see, the reason why I place more responsibility and emphasis on women is because, number one, I am a woman. Number two, I have a son. So I've given life to a boy who's one day going to become a man. So there's no way that I could ever take a platform that men don't matter, that men can be exterminated. What does that say about my son? So this concept of trying to eliminate men from the process is not only going to create extermination, meaning we can't reproduce ourselves, right? We can't have children because a woman can't, without a man, can't produce life. But it is also the lack of men in our communities, not only in the household, but in the community, is causing sociological and emotional and mental dysfunction because there's no duality in our communities. The concept of truth, balance, harmony, reciprocity does not exist in the male-female relationship as a collective in the Black community. So there are all sorts of layers. Anytime a woman can spend all of her time on social media attacking anyone, particularly Black men, when she comes from a Black father and a grandfather and an uncle and all these different men in the community and whatnot, and you spend all your time, that's your whole platform to attack somebody else that looks just like you, that's insanity. So there's a ripple effect that's happening here with women where we are literally losing our minds because we don't have our men. Not a man coming and laying in the house and keeping the bed warm. We can get that all day. I'm talking about knowing that you have somebody that you can call and depend on when you need support. If your car breaks down and there's 5 inches of snow outside and you and your children are stuck in the car with no heat, somebody that you can call that will come and shovel your ass out of that car and get you to safety. If somebody breaks in your back door or your window gets broke when you come home, a man that you can call and come assess the situation from a security standpoint. Somebody grabs your purse when you out in the streets and you don't have anybody to call, anybody to turn to. And it's men standing on the street with phones doing this, recording you getting mugged and you getting beat up opposed to having your back. It's creating a psychological deformity in women. That's why these sisters are online losing their minds, because they've been mistreated and misused and abused by men. A lot of them started in the household. Then they go out into the world, and we're always seeking that balance. A man is always seeking the balance of a woman. A woman is always seeking the balance of a man. It may come from your mother. It may come from your uncle. It may come from your wife. It may come from your daughter. But we're always seeking that natural balance of God, because this is the substance and the essence of which all things were created. So you've lived your whole entire life without that part of the equation. It's driving our women crazy.
Wow. You know, I'll tell you what, I'm in complete agreement with you. And I think that when you talk about the dysfunction, two things come to mind. One is the fact that we live in an ecosystem that's recursive, in the sense that, you know, when I talk to brothers about how they speak about women, I tell them you have to be careful, because when you talk about Black women, you're talking about your mother, you're talking about your sister, you're talking about your daughter, right? So, you know, if every woman is a bitch or a hoe, you know, then it's all boomeranging right back into your space, and you're a product of creating whatever it is that you might be complaining about. And I think the same thing is true on the female side, right? If you have major issues with all men, or you somehow feel that the problems with men, the issues that a lot of men have, and I agree with you. I see a lot of it every day, and it bothers me. If you feel it has nothing to do with you, then how can you say it has nothing to do with you when maybe you're raising a Black man at home? You know, that same, you know, for example, when you see a mother and a mother and a young lady kind of fighting over the same little boy, where he's supposed to be one woman's husband and the other woman's son, but he's
Yeah.
kind of the husband to both of them. You
Yeah.
know, and one woman's complaining because he won't man up, but the other woman feels that
Baby.
you know, that she needs him as that's her baby, and you know what I mean, like leave my baby alone, I'm gonna make his plate, you know, all that stuff. It just becomes very weird to kind of watch that happen. It's almost like emotional incest in a way.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and in so many cases, unfortunately, you'll see a woman produce the very same man that she would complain about every day, you know. And so, but again, as a father, you know, I'm part of that ecosystem as well. So I think that we have to be cautious about sort of how we talk about the other gender, even in your relationships. If the way you talk about your exes, you know, you got to be real careful, because that's going to be a reflection of you at some point. If
Yeah.
every person that you've spent time with is a loser and crazy and terrible, that eventually, if I hear enough of those stories, I'll say, oh, something must be wrong with you, right? You know. And so,
Holly Berry.
right. So long story short, I would say that everything you're saying makes sense, and I will also say that as you also explained it accurately, the cause of the anger and the pain that you see with so many women. I have thought long and hard about some of the weakness you see with men. It frustrated me for a very long time that I had a very hard time finding strong black men to look up to when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Most of the black men that I knew around me, other than my father who raised me, my stepfather, most of them were either sellout Uncle Tom types, you know, who climbed the corporate ladder by kissing ass, or they were, you know, weak and begging and waiting for the white man to give them a job so they could eat, you know, or on the streets begging for money, or, you know, living their life in a liquor bottle or whatever it was, or feeling sorry for themselves. And it bothered me. You know, I didn't really feel like I had strong men to look up to until I met Farrakhan. Like, you know, I said, you're like a grandfather to me, because you're a strong black man and you're independent. You ain't out here begging and kissing ass to get by. You're building things, you know. And I think that you know, for so many of these men, and this is why we created Black Men United. Actually, Andre Hatch and I had talked about this. We said, you know, maybe some of these brothers got to learn, you know, what manhood really means. You know, because and here's the thing: if you read Dr. Claude Anderson's books like Black Labor, White Wealth, you will see where he documents the fact that there was a consistent effort to keep the black man weak and uncompetitive, to keep him uneducated, to keep him broke as hell, to keep him frightened as hell. And obviously we know all of these qualities are incredibly unattractive to women. Women don't like dumb men, they don't like broke men, they don't like weak men and scared ass men. But that's exactly what society has worked to create. And then you throw prison on top of that, it gets even worse. And I think that some sort of understanding amongst black men of the importance of being competitive in this world is absolutely critical. You know, like knowing how to create your own job in case the white man won't give you a job. Your family shouldn't starve because the white man won't give you a job. That makes you a bitch. If you can't eat because another man won't come and feed your kids, then you a bitch. You don't have sex with your woman. Let the white man come and have sex with your woman, because that's pretty much what you're doing when you can't find a way to make a way. You know, and you see athletes. You'll see some of these poor athletes that will sacrifice everything to try to play a sport. They'll have no other skill other than playing that sport. And they will literally believe that their destiny in life is to play a sport for a white man. So when the white man says, oh, sorry, we've hired enough niggas this year in the NFL, we ain't hiring no more. You got these guys like this one guy who played for the Kansas City Chiefs. Big, strong man. You know, he's an athlete, so he's in great shape. This nigga was sitting, I'm sorry, this was some nigga shit. I don't mean to use that word. I don't use it very often, but I'm sorry. This was some nigga shit right now, and I hate saying it like this, but it was. And I'm not making fun of him. I'm so sorry. If he sees this, I don't want you to think I'm making fun of you, but damn it, I got to call it for what it is. He was sitting out there with a big sign at the Kansas City Chiefs Stadium, holding up a sign that said, you know, I will play football for food, or something like that. I will run routes for food, because he was that desperate to get on to get signed to the Kansas City Chiefs, to get an opportunity to play football, because he had nowhere else to go. And in his mind, and in the minds of white people who felt sorry for him, they saw this as something to admire. Like, oh, he's so determined that he's going to sit out here and humiliate himself. I said, my God, what are you doing? Do you know how stupid you look? But unfortunately, Black men, we're just not built in the right way a lot of times. You know, so much combing,
Let me
so
say
much,
this.
you know, and I just hate it. It drives me crazy.
You're right. And you know, you talked about how men have to be able to speak to women with the right type of perspective and with the right voice, right? In order to make sure that you're not, that they are not breaking them down, and you know what I mean. So with your guidance, right? Because I'm not too much woman to not take guidance from a man. I seek male guidance because I understand that in order for us to get this thing right, and even on my mission to be closer to God, I need that. So this weakness in men, it's always interesting to me that I've all my life, from my nephews and my cousins to men that I've dated to friends that I've had, I've always heard men say, I don't like to hang around men. I just don't like to be around men. You know what I mean? They too shady. They too this, they sabotage, they this, they that. Seeing a reinforcement of why men cannot be trusted. And so I'm sitting back and I've pondered this a lot because I always come across it. How is it that we expect to create a new generation of men when men won't even deal with men? You say steel sharpens steel. I think that's true to an extent, but I also think that we need more women teaching men and men teaching women so that we can kind of balance this thing out. But I need to reiterate a point, and I said this in one of my other videos, like men are suffering. And I don't think that the world really understands when you are a Black man, you have a natural inclination. You are naturally inclined to be a leader. You're born with it. It's in your DNA. You come from God. So if from the time you are born to the time you go out into the world and start to move around, everything in the world is beating back at that and telling you, no, you only supposed to be a carpenter. No, you only supposed to be a janitor. Okay, you got into college. Be happy with that. Be satisfied with that. Oh, okay, you started a business. That's cool. Be careful. If everything in the world is reinforcing an inferiority complex, some men break, they snap, and they can't come back. So for women in seeing this, right, and I constantly say, I think a big part of the problem is that a lot of our women don't study history. We really don't understand the gravity of what Black men have gone through. We know that from the teachings of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and others, that they have systematically given the Black woman a platform while systematically creating a lower level for Black men, right? Now, when we say the Black woman got a platform, that doesn't mean that, she was living high on the hill. That's where the subject starts to go left, because people think that the white man has given the Black woman this rose petal, magic carpet ride. No, that's not it. Because even if he gave her an advance by putting her man behind, he's still handicapping her. So if we as women were studied and understood what happened through the breaking process in slavery, up through Jim Crow, up through lynching, up through the prison industrial complex, up through what happens to our sons in the schools, I think that we would be a little bit more compassionate in the way that we interact with our men. I'm not talking about accepting some deadbeat into your household and making him your man because you want to help Black men. No, that's suicide. I'm talking about all of the men that you come in contact with in your life, and even dedicating yourself to an industry that is helping to cultivate Black manhood. Now, a Black woman can't teach a man how to be a man. We know that. But there's been eons and eons and eons of women that have raised boys up, that have grown up into manhood. She may not have taught him, but she created the womb, his world, where she put him in certain situations and around certain people and in certain sports and in certain classes and programs and whatnot that cultivated manhood in him. So no, a woman can't teach a man how to be a man, but she can create a womb that will help a boy to grow up into manhood. This is our duty and responsibility as women, because if we get stuck on how weak and how complacent and how lazy some Black men are, we're going to create generations and generations of those men. And we have to accept the responsibility of what we have done to our men and what we continue to do to our men. Sometimes our women are so strong. Our grandmothers were so strong that they didn't know anything else but to do everything. They couldn't see any way else but to do everything. And when she did everything, she left her nothing to do. Men need to be needed.
Mm-hmm.
Sisters, if you don't hear anything else that I say, if you got a man in your life, your father, your grandfather, the people the brothers you work with, men need to be needed.
Mm.
We've created a culture as Black women of not needing our men, and it's breaking them. It's breaking them with the rest of the systematic and sociological racism that they have to deal with every day, and their own self-accusing spirit, and their own fear, and their own self-doubt. We are adding to that. We should either be neutral and not say anything about it and just stay out of their way, or we should try to help them to resolve the deep-seated generational issues that a lot of them have.
Well, you know, that's a great point you made. And I think that you know, what you said really about being needed, that really tapped me, because I remember one time a while back, I had a relationship with a woman that I cared about her a lot. And I remember, you know, I don't think she was into the whole not needing a man mentality per se. She didn't want to be, but she had a very strong mother who did everything by herself. And it wasn't until the relationship was over that I realized that in all the years I think we were together 3 to 4 years, 3.5 years, something like that. In all the years we were together, she never once said, "I need you," never once. And it's not because she didn't need me. I think she did need me. But I think that in her mind, saying that she needed a man was some sort of sign of weakness. You know, I'd said to her a few times, I said, you know, I really need you. I really, you know what I mean? I appreciate your presence. But and it's not me bashing or anything like that. But your comment made me think about that experience.
You know what, Boyce? Let me just say this. I don't mean to interrupt you, but more than anything, whatever her reason was for not being able to say that, what she was really afraid of was that you weren't going to be there when she said she needed you. That was her real issue. If I say this and I open myself up and be vulnerable and he doesn't come through for me, it's going to tear me apart. So let me keep it safe. It's safe where we are now. Once I start chartering into those vulnerable, open, you know what I mean? You know, all of that emotion that we try to act like we don't have as women, like we don't need love, we don't need compassion, we don't need all that stuff that only our men can give us. Once you say it and he doesn't come through, if you don't come through, then the whole relationship is wrecked.
Wow. Whew. Well, you know, I mean, and I was never mad at her for it, but I mean, unfortunately, her father was a victim of the prison industrial complex. And so that first man that she did need wasn't there, you know, for various reasons. And so you can see where that becomes intergenerational in terms of a curse. So I think based on what Zaza's saying, we all just need some therapy. All of us, we just need we need 40 million Black people to show up. What do you say?
We need each other.
Yes, we need each other, and we need therapists too. Not those white therapists. We need some Dr. Francis Chris Wilson or something like that. And some Zaza Ali. I want everybody to know your website. It's zazaali.com. And your books, Black Matters Volume 1 and Volume 2. Lift them up so people can see your books. I want people to see the books. And I hope you'll support. If you love what Zaza's saying, I hope you'll take the time to go buy each of her books and anything else that she's got going. Not so much as a money play. She's not trying to get rich off this stuff. It's just a matter of supporting those that we believe in, those that we want to see succeed. And so if you didn't like what she had to say, then I guess all bets are off. But if you did, you know, just sort of back the sister up, you know, support what she's doing. And I want to say thank you, Zaza, for hanging out with me today. It's always awesome, always a pleasure. All right.
It's a pleasure for me. And I want you to know that even when you come across a lot of the vitriol from our women, from some of our women, that, you know, the sisters, the good sisters, you know what I mean, that recognize you and see you and appreciate what you do and understand the gravity of this responsibility that you've taken on. We support you. You know, we love you, and we will ride for you. Sometimes even if we have to ride against our own sisters, we don't want to do that. But, you know, you are setting a template and a blueprint that is going to be here for our people and for our children generations down the line. And we can't let anybody get in the way of that. We cannot allow anybody to get in the way with that, of that. And, you know, I know you talk about, you talk about everything from Rachel Dolezal to, you know, nigga politics to, you know what I mean? You have a wide array of conversations that I get all your emails, Boyce Watkins, YouTube live at 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, what the hell was he doing woke? You know, but the blueprint that you are creating as far as being a Black man that is accepting, owning the responsibility for the generations that are coming behind us, what you and your daughter represent, your platform as far as economics and teaching our people about stocks and trades and bonds and money and, you know, building an economic future for ourselves. It is absolutely so important and valuable to us. And I just want you to know that we do appreciate you, and we love you, and keep doing what you're doing. Even when you get 2,000 crazy, insane comments about something that is nothing but pure truth. Truth agitates people, especially when you living in a world based on deception. When you put something out that's so simple but powerful, and you know in your heart that it's true, sometimes you just got to let it sit. Don't even defend it, because truth will stand on its own.
Right on. Well, thank you for those kind words. That means a lot, you know, and because those are the words when people ask me why, it's I can easily kind of brush off all the, the attacks that when they come in, is I tell them, let's not focus on the people who hate you. You focus on the people who love you. Those are the people who are going to have your back. Those are the people you're here for. And I know that if I spend too much time catering to the people who hate me, I'm not going to spend as much time serving the people who love me. Yeah. So I love you too, sister, and I appreciate you with all my heart. And everybody who's watching, I love you too. And without y'all, I mean, we'd be talking to ourselves. So thank you all for hanging out with us. And I'm going to ask Zaza to come back. And in fact, she's agreed to hang out with us when we come down to Atlanta next month, the week of April 13th. If you want to get tickets to come see us in Atlanta, you can go to drboyceatlanta.com. That's drboyceatlanta.com. Also, once again, Zaza's website is zazaali.com. And again, if you're interested in joining any of our financial literacy programs, you can go to blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's blackfinancialliteracy.com. Well, once again, thank you so much, Zaza, and it was real. And everybody take care, and we are about to sign off. And so you guys have an awesome day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.